Hey, welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Nigel Newton. He is the CEO of Bloomsbury Publishing. And Nigel, it's good to see you. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm terrifically well after a very exciting day of communicating these results to our shareholders, to the analysts, and to the press. And it's gone okay. So I'm pretty pleased about that. Thank you for asking.
Good stuff. And also joining our conversation is your Group Finance Director, Penny Scott Bayfield. And Penny, nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, and also joining us is Jenny Rideout, the Managing Director. And Jenny, nice to meet you as well.
Thank you. Likewise. Good to be
So,
here.
Nigel, why don't we start with you? And as you mentioned, you sort of gave us a bit of preview there about your numbers, very positive, and that's exciting for you. So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about some things that have happened. More importantly, there was an acquisition that you made that really has sort of set the publishing company on a really strong track record and moving forward.
Yeah, well, thank you. The exciting thing about these results is that we've finally conquered one of the long-term weaknesses of Bloomsbury since the company was started in 1986, which is we used to be very geared to the Christmas market, and we had calendar year ends, and they would be total cliffhangers because they would depend on who was buying what that Christmas. And thanks to our diversification into academic publishing, headed by Jenny on my right, and a whole host of other measures that we've taken, we now have a quite differently balanced year where we don't kind of break even in the first half and make all the money in the second half. We do pretty well in both of them. So on this occasion, as the figures say here, the revenues are up 32% to about 180 million, and the profits are up 50% to nearly 27 million. So I'm very excited that I can enjoy Christmas with my family without this dreaded year-end hanging over us. I have to say the other thing we did that you may have noticed is move our year-end to the end of February, also in the interests of a good Christmas.
Yeah. Nigel, while I have you here, a couple other things. I mentioned acquisitions, and we've talked in the past about Rowman and Littlefield and the acquisition you made there. How's that all going?
Rowman and Littlefield is a model acquisition in three senses. First of all, the books themselves are even greater than we imagined. We recently launched, thanks to them, a project they signed up years ago, which is the 24 volumes of the revised standard edition of the collected complete psychoanalytical works of Sigmund Freud, yours for only £1,500. That will be bought by academic libraries all over the world. So that's just one of 41,000 books published by Rowman and Littlefield of peerless, irreplaceable academic content that can only be bought from them. Secondly, the numbers are great. The sales are tracking exactly on budget and not taking the usual post-acquisition nosedive that happens so often because everyone's confused and doesn't know what's going on. That's not happening here. And thirdly, the reason for that is the great integration team, led amongst others by my colleagues Penny and Jenny on my right, and Sabrina and Troy and Simon, and a host of people at our end working with their brilliant new colleagues in Lanham, Maryland, and around the world from Rowman and Littlefield. So it may not be perfect, but it's pretty good compared to many of the other acquisitions I've seen.
Yeah. And also, Nigel, I wanted to ask you, I noticed that you've increased in some various rankings as well. So that's another positive for you to talk about.
Well, I was on holiday this summer when I got a text saying that Bloomsbury had entered the Financial Times Stock Exchange, the FTSE 250, which makes us one of the 350, adding the FTSE 100 on top, largest companies, public companies in the UK, which is very exciting. And indeed, only today, with the good reaction to these results, we've seen the market capitalization of the company rise from about 500 million to about 600 million, unless something nefarious has happened in the last hour. So that's one ranking. A second one is that there's a league table published from Germany of the largest publishing companies in the world, the top 100, and we've risen from number 51 in 2020 to number 39 this year. So watch out, Spanish textbook publishers in South America, or whoever we have to beat to get up to number 38 or higher next year. And finally, we did one of those dreaded staff surveys, a new one called the Great Place to Work accreditation, TM, all in capital letters. And we did well in that. We've now received that certification, and people are happy by and large working at Bloomsbury, and that makes for successful publishing.
Absolutely. Let's bring Penny and Jenny into the conversation. Of course, Penny, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the consumer division. Obviously, the numbers were very strong there. So take us through the performance of that division.
Absolutely, and thank you, Steve. The numbers were, I think, the very definition of strong. We actually used the word stellar in our presentation this morning. So consumer revenue growth of 47% to 131 million, and consumer profit growth of 91%. So these on top of very strong numbers in last year, I think really indicates how successful our portfolio of consumer publishing has been. And you can see we've got some great examples here, but that ranges from cookery to fantasy to romantasy to, you know, young children's publishing. So extraordinary range of great publishing leading to that really good commercial success.
Yeah, and you mentioned the ones that you have around you, and you've got two key franchises that are really driving these numbers, and Harry Potter's still getting it done. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. 27 years after it was first published, we're still seeing great sales from Harry Potter. And I think, you know, as many of your viewers will be well aware, that Warner Brothers are now casting their new series of, you know, one series per book, so much greater range than the original films. And that's really exciting. That brings, again, a whole new audience on top of what is already, you know, one of the world's, you know, best known brands. So it's a really exciting time for that. And then the other great name, a global superstar, the Taylor Swift of publishing, as she's been dubbed, Sarah J. Maas, with the 16 titles that we've published with her. Global superstar and fantastic. And in fact, her sales grew by 102% year on year. So just extraordinary, extraordinary writing, extraordinary fans. We couldn't be more honored to be partnering with her to publish her.
Yeah, and the outlook continues to look very strong for those two franchises, but also others as well.
Absolutely. So we've got an amazing range of publishing, which has already come out in our second half, from Want by Gillian Anderson to Poppycook Slow Cookers to The Golden Road. Marty McCarr has done a brilliant book called Blind Spots, which is already a bestseller in the US. So I could go on, but I won't this afternoon.
All right. Well, let's bring Jenny in. And Jenny, I want to ask you a bit about the academic division. And Nigel talked a little bit, obviously, about the acquisition of Rowman and Littlefield and the success of that one so far. That's obviously a big part of what the academic division is all about.
Absolutely. We're really pleased to have Rowman and Littlefield join the academic division. And as Nigel mentioned, the integration is going very well. We're pretty good at integrations now. We've done a number of these, and we have a good sort of a team and a lot of expertise in integrating businesses. So that's well underway. The opportunity that we have with Rowman and Littlefield really strengthens particularly our profile as an academic publisher in the US, really augments that in a big way. And in terms of what we publish, it broadens and deepens the subject offering that we have, so it's incredibly complementary. And also helps us to develop out into new subject areas, such as business management and psychology. These are sort of subject areas which have big student cohorts. And so we're not only, it's not only very complementary, but it's helping us to really expand the range of our publishing as well. And then, of course, there is the digital opportunity, which we're busy working on right now, digitizing the 41,000 titles that have come over from RNL and readying those for launch on our Bloomsbury Collections platform, and then making plans for other digital resources on top.
Yeah, that digital resource part of it, is that really part of some of the trends that you're seeing in the academic market?
Absolutely. So in terms of the trends in higher education, what we have is this accelerated shift from print to digital. And that is happening because of the appetite from academic institutions, the requirement to have 24/7 access to all of the course materials and student learning materials and scholarly research that they need. And that really fits this backdrop of remote and hybrid learning. Academic institutions themselves are under pressure, and this is coming from budgetary pressure, from declines, certainly in the UK, and in the number of international students being enrolled, and actually, in terms of student fees, which have been capped for some time. And we're seeing that financial pressure on the academic institutions in the UK, seeing some of that in the US as well, which is affecting the sort of low to mid-sized organizations. The larger institutions are much more protected from that. So again, those sort of enrollment trends. But the long-term prognosis for the higher education market is we see this huge demand and rise for tertiary education globally. And the World Bank predicting statistics of 380 million students by 2030, and that's coming from a base of 220 by 2021. So this rising demand for tertiary education and rising demand for digital materials.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be an interview if we didn't ask about AI. So let's talk about that. Are you seeing a push in that in the publishing world?
Yes. So our Bloomsbury's response to AI is obviously a responsible and ethical stance. And what we are seeing, and this is really important to us, that whatever we do in AI is in service to our core mission and values. A huge part of that is intellectual property, protecting and upholding that. And what we're seeing is an evolving marketplace for AI licensing deals, and that's something that we are currently exploring.
All right. Well, we know Nigel is real. He's not AI made up, because I talked to him a bit earlier, that's for sure. Thank you very much, all three of you. Really fantastic numbers out for the company, and continuing to show that people are still loving books, which is obviously a real positive for sure. So thank you for your time. Congratulations on the numbers, everyone.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
All right. There's Nigel Newton, Penny Scott Bayfield, and Jenny Rideout, all with Bloomsbury Publishing.